This is your AP Government video on lobbying. A lobbyist is just somebody who works on behalf of an interest group or a political action committee. They are paid by that group in order to try to seek and influence legislators. They want to try to get elected officials to pass certain policies or laws that they find effective for their particular point of view or the topic area that they represent. They do this by building up long-standing relationships with elected officials or their staffs. Now, they can also lobby and build up these relationships with members of the bureaucracy. So these are government employees who work in various government agencies and also congressional committees or the staffs of a specific committee. So for example, let's say a lobbyist is representing the healthcare industry. They are going to want to know not only who the members of Congress are who might be likely to pass a law about the healthcare industry that they like, but also the members of the congressional committee that healthcare legislation would go to in both the House and Senate. And a lot of times, the bureaucratic agencies on health and human services are members that are not political. So those are civil service employees who stay there regardless of who's elected to Congress. So they can also build up relationships with people who are in the bureaucracy as well. They can also group together with other similar interest groups. So there could be an interest group representing the healthcare industry. There can also be interest groups representing every single healthcare insurance company, and all of them can group together to support the same legislation, and then they can combine resources in order to try to get laws passed or changed. Lobbyists often do their best work through what is referred to as an iron triangle. Iron triangles also can be referred to as an issue network or a policy network because it is a very strong relationship between three people. A lobbyist who works for an interest group, a member of Congress who's typically on the congressional committee where the bill will pass through, and three, a member of the bureaucracy who will be in charge of making sure that that law goes into effect properly. If those three people work together, the lobbyist can write the law, the congressional committee can get it passed, and then the agency of the government can enact it as part of the executive branch of government. So this is typically a congressperson, a bureaucrat, and a lobbyist. Now, various lobbyists have different amounts of power and influence. Remember, a group, like an interest group or a PAC, is more powerful if they represent more people. So you have some interest groups who have very large memberships, millions of American citizens and voters, and you can just tell those voters who and who not to vote for, and that gives you some power. Sometimes groups are really powerful, not because they represent lots of people, but they represent few people, but those few people happen to be very wealthy or happen to be powerful corporations. So there is an inequality of resources. Not all interest groups have the same amount of power. Now, sometimes lobbyists have a lot of power and influence because they've been doing this for a long time. So they have built up relationships which are very valuable. And because they can get access to key members of staff or elected officials where you and I as average citizens might not be able to do that. So if you can get access to the decision maker more quickly, you can then have meetings with them and maybe get your opinion heard a lot more easily. And, as in all things in the American political system, not all people are represented. Powerful people, corporations, some really big topic areas that American citizens like are very well represented. Underserved communities like the homeless are not represented as much. There just aren't as many people who are willing to donate their time and money and influence to help people who, for instance, can't pay for their influence. There's also what's referred to as a free rider problem. A free rider is somebody who benefits from a law even if they didn't pay to get the law passed. So an interest group can pay a lot of money in order to try to get, let's say, a healthcare law passed. And then there's some people who will benefit from that law even though they're not part of the interest group and even though they did not donate any money to try to get that law passed. So sometimes there's maybe a disincentive Why would I want to pay and donate money to this interest group if I'm going to benefit either way? And so that's why they like to try to get as many people in the membership as possible.